Hello everyone, Rick Albert here. I hope everyone's staying safe, staying healthy. If you're in quarantine, hopefully spending good opportunity to spend quality time with family. But what's going on right now, and I have notes here, so if you see me looking up and down, that's why. This is all somewhat off the cuff. But people have been asking me a lot of questions regarding the real estate market and what to do and what's going on. So I thought I would address it all in this video. And of course, if you have more questions, keep them coming. I really appreciate the opportunity to help you guys out. So let's start with the first question, which is what's going on in the LA market? Well, as a whole for Los Angeles, the market's still doing pretty well. It's pretty strong. We're seeing a lot of still showing requests. Offers are still getting sent out and getting accepted. By way of example, our latest listing on Spring Park Avenue, the condo in Ladera Heights, we launched that on Monday and I already have 5 showing requests. So we're trying to work through that to get those showings accomplished and hopefully enter escrow as early as next week. In terms of public open houses, we're still seeing pretty good traffic. You know, on our end with some of our open houses, they've been actually some of the busiest. But going forward, especially with a lot of the communication I'm seeing in all the real estate networking groups I'm part of, we are going to see a decline in scheduled open houses to kind of help mitigate everything that's going on. So we most likely will not see a lot of open houses going forward until everything gets, resolved or at least close to it. Part of that, in terms of buyer activity, seller activity, a lot of that has to do with the 2 big drivers. Interest rates, they're still low and they were actually cut again. So we're seeing a lot of refinances happening as well. And the second is low inventory. So cheap money, low inventory usually equates to a good time to buy and even a good time to sell because buyers could then afford a higher price point with the lower interest rates. So plus with the stock market, generally as the market goes down, real estate goes up. The reason being is because investors pull their money out of the stock market and need to reinvest into something else. So that's where real estate comes in. If you take a look at the last 5 recessions, only twice have we seen price reductions. One in 2008 because of the bad loans, once I believe in the 90s, but that was less than like 1%. It was almost like a blip. Keep in mind recessions are defined by 2 quarters in a row for a low GDP. So it's only 6 months. So a 6-month window can be a recession. The next thing is if you are thinking about buying, but you're on the fence because of COVID-19, right now the best advice we can give is go ahead and continue the process of buying. With the limited open houses that are going on, it means more scheduled open houses, which means less competition, right? Because now everyone has to scramble. So if you're one of those few people that gets this showing, writes a good offer, higher probability of getting it accepted with less competition. Because if you're on the seller's end, you're like, hey, look, I got a good offer and I don't have to do more showings where I could potentially put people at risk for COVID-19. I'm just gonna take it and move on, right? Bird in the hand, best option. Plus with the low interest rates, I would hate for you to miss out on that opportunity to get almost free money in some cases. At the higher price points in the luxury market, we're seeing interest rates as low as 2%. I mean, that's unheard of. That's unheard of in a really long time, probably ever. If you're thinking about selling, a little different strategy. There's 2 things you have to keep in mind. And we do still encourage people to list their homes. We're not saying stop. But the 2 things to keep in mind is 1, it might take a little longer to sell because we're not having all the public open houses. So you have to coordinate all the scheduled showings. So that's something to keep in mind. The second one is you really, really need to pay attention to the price. I would really recommend going at market value, maybe slightly below. But if you decide you want to list it really high, it's probably not in your best interest because buyers are going to be pickier as to which houses they want to tour. So if you're overpriced than where the actual buyer is, they're not even going to see it, right? So for example, let's say your house is worth, 1.9 million. So you know what? I'm going to list for 2.1. The buyers at 1.9, their search criteria is not going up to 2.1. And in these times, they're going to be picky on to which ones they're going to choose. They may look up to maybe just 2 million, in which case you'll be completely ignored. So you have to be careful where you price your home, especially in this market. Now, switching gears to our investor and tenant clients. Because like myself, I'm a landlord and I have a lot of landlord clients as well. So the first things first, the city of Los Angeles has imposed a restriction on evictions. They're kind of putting those at a halt for non-payment as long as it's related to COVID-19. How do you prove that? That is somewhat subjective, but if you are a bartender, right, restaurants, gyms, things like those places that are actually closed, those are pretty good reasons, and those are directly related to COVID-19. Now, this does not mean as a tenant, you get to say, oh, I get free rent. You do have to make that up. That's super important. So I am seeing some landlords do, especially in the talks I've been with, they're offering maybe lower rent, but you just have to make it up later. So if you're paying $2,000 a month in rent today, but you say, fine, I'm gonna pay $1,500 for the next 2 months, and then after that, I'm gonna pay $2,200 a month, right, $200 above to make up the difference. I've seen some landlords start to have those kinds of conversations. So you just have to be aware of that. And whatever you do, and I know this goes without saying, but please, please, please have it in writing and have all parties sign it before you do anything. Before just a handshake is not gonna work. Keep in mind, here in LA County, it's already packed to the courthouse in terms of evictions. Evictions are costly, and it's generally tenant friendly. So if you don't have things in writing, you're gonna have a problem. The next thing to keep in mind is Governor Newsom did just announce he's working with the banks to slow down the foreclosure process, but don't count on it, right? Don't bank on it, so to speak. The reason being is it's still not clear, at least from the limited research I've done, of what those unintended consequences might be. Doesn't mean they're not gonna still charge you late fees, doesn't mean it may not hurt your credit, so those are things you have to be aware of. If you are a tenant, and this is super important, this is not the time to take advantage of your landlord. Not that there ever is a good time, but keep in mind, if you stop paying, that means the landlord has other obligations as well. They still have to pay their HOA dues, still have to pay insurance, property taxes, maintenance. These are things that they still have to pay. So just because you stop paying, it really does put landlords in a bind, and they only have so much in their reserves, especially if they own multiple properties. So by way of example, let's say you're an Uber driver and the government says, hey, look, you need to drive people, patients to the hospital to get tested for COVID-19. And by the way, you have to do it for free. You might look at that and say, well, that's noble. I want to help other people, but I have gas. Someone's got to help me pay for that. I have maintenance on my car. I have to, keep in mind, I got to replace the tires. All these things you have to keep in mind. Same applies here. So now that all of that's out of the way, we at America Real Estate are taking the necessary precautions as well to make sure that we're still providing the best customer service possible, as well as providing as much expertise as possible for all of our current and future clients, as well as our friends and family that ask questions as well. If anyone is interested in buying or selling, even if you're not ready to make the move now, we still always encourage the conversation. We are happy to do Zoom meetings, Skype calls, Google Hangouts, whatever you feel the most comfortable with, because we know how important this is. And like most things, time will pass, right? We will get through this. So it's always free to have the conversation today. Thank you guys for your time. If you need anything at all, please feel free to reach out to me. Our contact information is very easily accessible. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.